Today, we're going to talk about why rest can feel so uncomfortable, where those feelings come from, and what you can do to finally let yourself recharge without feeling guilty. For most of us, rest didn't start out as the enemy. Something in our life taught us that stopping or doing something just for ourselves was either risky or simply not something people do. Maybe we grew up managing our parents' emotions, and the second we relaxed, something in the house would shift. Or maybe our worth got tied to our grades, achievements, or being the easy one. And anytime we weren't succeeding, we felt invisible or afraid that we would lose our parents' approval. Maybe our nervous system learned through chaos or unpredictability that staying alert was just safer. And for many of us, it could have just been what we saw: a parent who never sat down, a household where everyone was always busy and busyness was treated as a virtue. Nobody told you that rest was wrong. You just never saw anyone do it. So without realizing it, you started to believe that rest just wasn't something that was done, or at least not by people like us. In any of those cases, rest stopped being neutral. It became either the moment right before something went wrong or evidence that you weren't pulling your weight. And slowly but surely, we start to believe that rest isn't good and that we should feel bad for even doing it. Even though we don't live in that same house, we aren't that age anymore, and we get to make decisions for ourselves, we still don't feel okay resting. There's also a physical piece to this that most people never hear about, and it's not what you'd expect. So hang with me, we're going to get to it. If stopping ever felt wrong or dangerous, staying busy became the solution, right? Productivity isn't just a habit for a lot of us. It can feel like it's part of who we are. Like it supports our sense of being a good person, a competent person, someone who deserves to take up space. Like we earned it with our labor, you know? Like I feel better when I've done more than my fair share of stuff in the house. That makes me feel like I'm a good wife and partner, as well as a great dog mom. And once I've completed all those tasks, then and only then can I sit down and watch TV. And I'm going to be honest, it's fucking exhausting. Another example would be to picture two people finishing the same project at work, okay? One closes their laptop, feels satisfied. The other closes their laptop and immediately starts a new task because satisfaction was never really the goal for them. Output was. For that second person, accomplishment doesn't feel like enough on its own. It only counts as evidence against an underlying fear that without the achievement, they aren't worthy of love. And I'm going to be honest, that's an exhausting place to build an identity because it requires constant proof. It's like there's no finish line where you've finally done enough to rest because the resting was never really the threat. The stopping was. I experienced this after writing each of my books because you guys know I love them. They're labors of love, but writing them takes so much out of me. And it's such a huge achievement. Like logically, I know that. However, when I send in my final draft, right, I shoot that email out and I'm officially finished with it, I immediately just move on to something else. I'm like, gotta work on that video, time to do the podcast. It's like I can't just sit and enjoy what I did or acknowledge the accomplishment. I just have to keep going. And I've been giving this a lot of thought, probably because my last book just came out in December. And I think part of it is because all the women in my family, like every one of them, kept themselves very busy. Like I can honestly tell you that I never saw my mom, my grandma, or even any of my aunts sit down during the holidays, except for when we were eating. And even then, they would pop back up quickly if someone needed something. And I also think, because I've been journaling about this, I also think it's because I've always had a hard time accepting compliments. And so to stop and actually say, hey, I did this cool thing, like it feels uncomfortable, like I'm bragging or I'm like full of myself. And so it's easier for me just to move on like nothing happened. And I don't know if that resonates with anyone else, but I just feel like all of that's connected to this for some reason. I've also seen this feeling tied to hypervigilance because a lot of you have told me that even during downtime, part of you is like scanning for what's coming next. Like a notification might pop up or someone might need something. It's like we always feel like a to-do list or an important task could just crop up and we want to be ready for it. Hypervigilance is exhausting because it means rest never gets to be fully restful. It's like your body could technically be sitting still, but your nervous system is standing guard, you know? Think of someone trying to fall asleep with one ear listening for a baby monitor that might go off any second. That's what hypervigilance is like. It's like you put your phone on the couch next to you, face up, just in case, so you can see if it lights up if somebody needs something. Or you keep the TV just a little quieter than you'd actually like so you can hear if someone in the house needs something from you. You tell yourself you're relaxing, but part of you never actually stopped monitoring everything. And that constant on edge feeling wears you and your nervous system out, even when you can't feel it happening in the moment. I actually just saw this TikTok that like encapsulates this perfectly. It was this girl and she was moving around different parts of this resort I think she was staying at. And she was like, I am definitely relaxing now. And she closed her eyes and she's like, I'm doing the best relaxing. I think I'm going to read a book because people who relax read books. And she goes on and on. It's very relatable to me because she's like, I'm relaxing to the fullest extent. Okay, I've done all these things. I'm relaxing. And it's just kind of part of this that like, you maybe don't even realize it, but we can't like shut down. We can't relax. We have to be hypervigilant all the time. And for those of us who grew up needing to anticipate someone else's needs, maybe their moods or their crises, this scanning, this like hypervigilance could have become automatic a long time ago. Back when it was protective, right? It meant you saw problems coming before they landed on you. But your nervous system never got the memo that the situation has changed. So it's still running that same program, right? The same scanning and being on edge years after the danger that built it has been gone. For some of us, rest doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it feels wrong. Guilty. Like lying on the couch on a random Tuesday afternoon can produce actual shame. We can find ourselves talking trash inside our own head, saying that we're lazy, selfish, or that you don't deserve this. Like, get your lazy ass off the couch and go do something, right? And that shame usually comes from an old rule that we learned growing up, that rest has to be earned, and earning it requires exhaustion first. Like some of us can only let ourselves rest after we are completely drained, because that level of exhaustion feels like it's sufficient proof that we've done enough to qualify. Does that resonate with anybody else? If we rest before we're completely knackered, it can feel like we're cheating in some way. And this is why having someone tell you to just relax rarely works. In fact, I'm going to be honest, it makes me pretty angry because it doesn't acknowledge the actual problem. The problem being that we believe that any rest we take has to be justified and meet the standards that we were taught growing up. In doing research for this video, I came across some research that explains why I always get sick when I go on vacation. The worst, right? So annoying. There's a real documented phenomenon called the letdown effect. Fascinating, you guys. And basically what it is it describes that a lot of stress-related symptoms like migraines, anxiety spikes, getting sick, flare-ups of things like eczema or digestive issues. If we have any, autoimmune issues, they can all of a sudden flare up. You can start your period. All that stuff can happen. And it happens during the vacation at the very beginning, not during the stressful time. So it's like you survive the really, really hard week. You finally get to the weekend or to that place where you're going to finally relax. And then you wake up Saturday morning with a headache and a cold and you feel awful. And the reason this happens is because when we're under sustained stress, our bodies release stress hormones, mainly like cortisol, adrenaline, things like that. And our body releases them because they're actually doing something useful. They're keeping our immune system activated. I had no idea about this, by the way. I found this incredibly fascinating. I'm sure, physicians out there are like, yeah, duh. But this was interesting to me, that those stress hormones keep our immune system activated, suppressing our awareness of any pain. It keeps us sharp and alert. It's why sometimes when even on the book tour, I'd be running on not that much sleep and I could go and do an interview and be fine and just keep going because cortisol and adrenaline were keeping me going. And this is why we can kind of power through a brutal stretch and feel oddly fine during it. But then the stressful period ends. Cortisol drops and our system kind of crashes. It's like the protections lift and the immune system overshoots in the other direction. And that's when everything that we were holding at bay finally catches up with us. Researchers have a name for the vacation version of this. So the letdown effect is like, just like whenever the stressful period ends, could be a weekend, whatever, we have that. But they also call it like leisure sickness when it happens on vacation. And studies suggest that people with the strongest sense of duty, so probably, working mothers, people who are in big caring positions, people who run businesses, if we have this really intense sense of duty, we're the ones who have the hardest time switching off. And we're actually more vulnerable to this effect. I know, it's annoying. Because we sustain those high cortisol loads for longer. And so the crash, when it actually finally comes our way, it's harder, it's more intense. So if you've ever gotten sick on the first day of vacation or felt weirdly anxious or irritable right when things finally slowed down, that's because your body is finally processing all of the stress that it was holding at bay while you were too busy to notice. Through this lens, it's like the discomfort of slowing down is actually physiological, right? It's just happening in our bodies. And it has nothing to do with our beliefs or our thought processes. It's like it doesn't have anything to do with our childhood. It's just something that our body does to keep us going. The instinct for a lot of us is going to be to turn rest into a project. I know, trust me, that's what I would do. I would try to create the perfect routine, right? The right amount of minutes that I need. Reminds me of this yoga teacher. I didn't go back to this class. I tried a studio locally and it wasn't a fit for me because she said, do you know that you only need Shavasana for 90 seconds for it to be effective? And I'm like, who the fuck did that study? Where are you even talking? What, 90 seconds? Oh, I can speed through this, right? Trying to relax in the like just in the right amount of seconds that we need. That's kind of this. It's kind of like this person acting this out. And I mean, I'm guilty of it, but I don't want it in my yoga class. I go there to try to relax, right? And so it's like we could try to create this perfect routine with the right amount of minutes and a checklist that we have to follow, like exact, right? That if I just rest properly, then I'll be able to do it and I won't feel so guilty. But the truth about this is that urge to do it a certain way, to have this project of it, is just another form of productivity. I know. I'm going to say it again so you can hear me. I'm going to hold your hand. The truth is that this urge to do it a certain way is just another form of productivity. We're still trying to find another way to earn the rest rather than just having rest be something that we get to do whenever we want or need. And just in case guilt tries to ruin it for you, because it does for me, and tell you all the things you should be doing, know that neuroscience actually supports us taking breaks. I know. Amazing. I love when we find research that actually supports good things like this. Because when you step back from constant stimulation and doing, something fascinating happens inside your brain. A network called the default mode network, or DMN for short, kicks in, okay? And the DMN is your brain's idle mode. It's most active when you're daydreaming, staring out the window, or letting your thoughts wander. That idle time is when your brain does some of its most important work. The DMN helps with self-reflection, planning for the future, and making sense of your identity, like who am I, But if you're always filling your mind with podcasts, TikToks, or endless scrolling on whatever your favorite platform is, I don't even care, then your DMN never gets fired up. It's like a computer that's consistently running a dozen heavy programs at once. It never has a chance to organize its files or update its system. So you're always reacting, never reflecting. And that reflection time is what actually sparks creativity. And this is just blah, blah, blah. This isn't just theory. Got tongue-tied. I'm sorry. Got so excited. But in one famous study, people were given a ridiculously boring task. Like they had to sort beans by color. So they're given all these different colors of beans and they're like, put the purples over here and the browns over here and the blues. Okay. So they're sorting these little things by color. And then after that, they were asked to do a creativity challenge. And the board group, the ones that were sorting those beans, consistently came up with more original ideas than the control group, the people who weren't sorting beans. They weren't given a boring task first. They were just asked to do something creative. And so the next time you feel guilty and that little voice inside your head says, you're wasting your time, Katie, you should be doing more, it might be worth remembering that your brain disagrees. It actually needs that time. So let's keep this simple, since turning it into a project is the whole thing we're trying to avoid here, okay? Here are a few places that we can start. First, start with rest in short, like low risk amounts. Like 5 minutes of sitting with your cup of coffee or tea, whatever you prefer, and doing nothing else. 5 minutes. That counts. You're not training for a marathon. You're just trying to learn how to slow down a bit. Like I try to not look at my phone when I eat. That's something that I try to do, okay? When the restlessness or guilt shows up, know that it's not a sign we're doing anything wrong, right? We don't need to treat it that way. We need to treat it as an old alarm system that's doing its job. It was trying to keep us safe, maybe, help us earn love, help us feel seen, heard, and understood. We can acknowledge it. Thank you so much for your service over these years, but I don't need you here anymore. I'm okay. And then we stay seated anyway. We don't change what we're doing. We don't get up. We don't go fold that laundry or go send that email. We acknowledge it. Keep resting. Keep doing nothing. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. And that's the entire point. If you think this comes from abuse or neglect in your past, you could also try, because sometimes that can be triggering, right? We can try pairing that little bit of rest, like those 5 minutes, with something that you already kind of register, or your nervous system at least registers as safe or neutral. Like maybe it's a specific chair or a certain playlist, a blanket that you love. Because familiar cues can help signal this is allowed, or at the very least, that this is safe or okay. Overall, expect this to feel bad before it feels good. I know, it's so annoying. I mean, that's been my experience, okay? I don't know about you. Let's hope it's not the same for you, but that's been my experience. And we're trying to fight back against that urge to always be doing something or producing something. And so it's going to feel weird, like we're doing something wrong. But discomfort here isn't bad. It's just a sign of newness. So stick with it. You got this, okay? My hope for this video is simple. I want you to finish it. Have at least one moment where you think, maybe I'm not lazy. Maybe I just never actually had the chance to learn how to rest. Because the guilt you feel during downtime is just based on an old belief system. It got built a long time ago for reasons that made sense then, right? Thank you so much. But we don't need it anymore. And in all honesty, it's only getting in our way. And the fact that rest feels hard or weird or wrong is actually evidence of how little rest we've allowed ourselves to take. People who are allowed to rest don't struggle with this. So I want you to try something this week. Pick one small moment to rest, genuinely unearned rest, before you're exhausted, before you've finished everything on your list, and just sit with the discomfort of it. Let your alarm system go off. Be firing, saying all the things. Stay seated anyway. The discomfort just means you're doing something new, right? This is like your first time allowing yourself to really rest. And trust me, I'm right here with you. I'll be doing it too. Let's hold each other accountable because we got this. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.